Hi, this is Becca Neeson coming to you again with FemmeCycle Collab, a women-centric recon video for Mighty Metropolitan coming up on November 26th. This would be the course that I would actually want to race if I could make it. But sadly, I'll be traveling with my family for Thanksgiving and we'll be in the real New York City. So I'll miss the virtual one. Let's get into it. You can see here my favorite fellow viewer shows the elevation. And you can see it's a lumpy bumpy, not quite like Yorkshire because littler ups, littler downs, but quite bumpy and lots of pinch points. Pinch points come into play a lot in my course notes because I think that there are places where you have to be aware of the pack dynamics and you have to be aware of how things will unfold if people make moves in those places. So let's look at the course notes. I will again make this available in the description, so don't worry if you're missing what is essentially the descriptions on the left hand side. We've got the beginning is a false flat leading up the east side of Central Park, and that is followed by a descent that is long enough that if you need to rest you can. If you're a lightweight you probably can't. It's going to lead into the ramp to the sky bridge, and so you just want to be aware that you're going to carry a lot of speed into that turn, and if you are all strung out and lose touch, you're probably never going to regain the pack. So make sure that you are aware of the pack because this is again a scratch race, so you're not going to have any points except for finish line points. So the ramp's going to lead up and get quite steep for just a little bit, and then it's going to be rolling until we get to the KOM. And I recruited some of my teammates to help us out with some advice for the largest section of the course that is uphill, the New York reverse KOM, starting with the intro to the New York KOM. So let's head over there.
Okay, so we're going to take a left here and we're going to see a banner. That banner is not the KOM start for us. This is the forward New York KOM banner. So if people are marking how long they have, they do not have 1.4 kilometers. They do not have 6.5%. This is the New York KOM. Then we're going to plateau and turn right, and then we'll hit the next banner. And that's the banner for the reverse KOM. So I've got Vanessa Beaver and Joanne Grogan from Coalition. They are my amazing teammates, and they're going to help me talk about the KOM. So they both are cross mountain bike women. So they both are very punchy. So what do you guys think about this KOM? Vanessa?
It's going to be a hard 1.1 kilometers. Yes. I think for me, I'm not a really good climber. I tend to stay seated to conserve energy. So I use cadence. So I'll increase cadence on steep grades so I can stay in the saddle longer. That might be opposite to some other people though.
How do you deal with these plateaus though, if you just use cadence?
If I've got the energy and the will, I will shift into a harder gear just for the plateaus. And then I'll bring it back to the one easier when we hit the grade again.
Is that what you do, Joanne?
Generally, pacing is key on this one because as it gets really hard near the top. So I'll start with a higher cadence, and as the grade and the fatigue builds, obviously the cadence decrease, and then I might start doing some jumps out of the seat to try and get on top of the pedal stroke again, aka raise the cadence. So to try and not be pushing a super low cadence, and ultimately your power will go down. So yeah, cadence is key on this one. Yeah, if your power goes down and you're in a low cadence, you're heading to the spiral of death.
I love Amy's spiral of death. So
I don't.
I love the phrase. I don't love it. I don't love being in it.
It's a horrible place to be in.
So one thing about this KOM is there are 4 distinct ramps. So we're on the second one. First one's not actually part of the KOM, but it's not a segment, so it doesn't really matter. You had that flat before you took the turn, and then now you hit another flat. And for someone like me, as a large rider, I like to kind of like blow it up on the flats, because if I rest there, like I'm just letting my strength, which is my total watts, hurt me, because I'm not really using them where they have the most effect, which is where there's no grade. So when we get to someplace like this, I like to push it harder. And as the grade goes down to 3%, 2%, the difference in my total watts and even Vanessa's total watts when we race in the same category are pretty different. So that I can make a big difference there. So we see then it's going to kick back up again. This one looks to be the steepest little ramp.
Conversely, for the super light riders on the really steep bits, they can pull away a lot easier, because for the same watts per kilo, they're going to carry more speed up than a heavier rider.
So this would be the ramp really that the lightweights would want. They would want to push it here, because
so
it's all down to watts per kilo.
gravitas,
Yeah.
we need to try to just hang on.
And you can draft right to that 9% grade jump, and then the lighter riders are just going to pull away from you with no draft.
No draft.
And I think what I noticed yesterday in the pain cavern was the steps still unfold the way you would when you hit a pinch point where there's a downhill and then an uphill. Like every time you're all strung out in a line, and then you hit the flats, and you kind of start to be collecting a little bit, then you hit a hill again, and if the front doesn't push it, the back closes that gap really quickly. So if you're sitting on the back, do a lot of work in the beginning part of the ramp, and you close that distance a lot. So, I don't know, use physics, I guess.
This here is the steepest bit of the entire thing.
Ooh,
at 15%.
Fun. Did you? Ooh. So the last one was like 9 to 10%, right? So this is actually the steepest.
But you can pretty much see the banner, so.
And it's over quick.
Yeah.
All right. And then at the banner, you're going to grab an anvil. And that's your only power up for the entire course. So you have to figure out where you want to use it.
Okay, so we'll hear from Vanessa and Joanne a little bit more later on. We're going to quickly hit on some tactics discussion, and then we'll go back to the course. So you only get one power up, and supposedly it's an anvil. An anvil will last you 15 seconds. And there's only a couple places in this course that you can really use it to good effect. Right after the banner for the New York Reverse KOM is a significant downhill, and you can see that here. That's right here. And you can see it goes down to 10.9% for 75 meters. So you have plenty of time to use it there. And if you're losing touch with the group, you definitely should. There's a couple of other places on the course that you can use it. You can see right here around 14 kilometers, and then 15.5 kilometers, and then a little after 16. And then there is a section here between 18 and 20 kilometers that you might be able to use it, but one thing to keep in mind is that the anvil power-up will only work when your grade is at least 1.5% negative. So while it won't hurt you if you're on a grade that's less than that or an ascent, it won't help you. So, and if you don't know, an anvil makes you heavier for 15 seconds, significantly heavier. So a couple things I wanted to touch on that I already talked about. The climb, and we talked about how to push over the cap of climbs. One more thing is, this is a scratch race. So the goal is to get all of your riders across the line in as good a position as possible. So if you are a rock star and you finish first, but you blow up the group and the rest of your team finishes like 2-1 from the back, then you have not done your team a service. You want your team to stay with as good a group as they can for the entire race without sacrificing your own performance, right? So it's just something to keep in mind in these rolling courses where there are significant ascents and significant descents. You want to help your team as much as possible, and part of that is having a plan. We talked about that last week, and chat with your team beforehand. This is part of the thing that I believe creates and fosters bonds in teams is that discussion of how are you going to execute this plan, and then afterwards talking about like, wow, that did not go as planned, or that succeeded against all odds. And that's something that you should think about, talk about, use. Okay, we are actually not going to hear from my teammates because I messed up the audio, but we are going to hear from Britt Litton in just a little bit. I'm going to demonstrate here on the video how I would take a shot at these pinch points. So I get up to speed, going as fast as I can downhill, so that I carry that momentum into the uphill. And that's something that you can do on all lumpy bits of courses. If you ramp up your RPM and your power, you don't really need to go as fast as I went, but I was trying to see what speed I could cap that Harlem Hill with. But the more speed and momentum you have going down, the less you will slow down on those hills. So it might not work if you're going into a serious hill. It would carry your momentum, but it might tire you out. And when you have a long hill coming up, you might not want to try it. But for the exit to Skybridge, that's perfect because you come off the Skybridge, you hit Harlem Hill, and then you have a downhill after. So that works. And then you only have 5 kilometers left once you get over Harlem Hill. So you can see we're using our momentum, which was the piece of advice that both Joanne and Vanessa had for the finish of this course. Across the course, all 3 of us feel like use momentum as much as you can and make it your friend rather than making it something that you have to work against. So we're going to go hear from Britt Litton on her perspective for the end of the course, and then she's going to give us our song of the week.
The end of this course is really going to suit a punchy rider. From around 19k, you'll hit descents at around -2%, and you want to make sure that you really use your momentum to near the bottom of these descents to help you get up the next hill. And there are a few wee rollers here, so just make sure you're paying attention, staying in the draft where you can, and then the course finishes at 20.1 kilometers. So you want to save all your energy just for the very end as you come around up the last little climb into the finish banner. My pick for this week's song of the week, the theme song for this ZRL race in New York, is, drum roll please, Welcome to New York. It's been waiting for you. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York.